Iron Man, arguably the centerpiece of the Infinity Saga and kicked off the modern MCU. With such an iconic character with so many variants, he's destined for action figures. And for the sake of today's video, the Mark IV suit. For a super quick history, this suit was primarily featured in Iron Man 2. I'm not an Iron Man armor specialist, but while they look very similar, the Iron Man 1 final suit is classified as Mark III, and the Iron Man 2 suit is Mark IV. I don't make the rules, I just work here. Anyways, Tony didn't honestly do too much in this specific suit besides slowly die of poisoning, get super drunk, piss his pants, fight Rhodey, and then eat donuts. You know, simple stuff. But by the end of the film, as Tony discovers a new element and saves his own life, he makes a new suit, the Mark VI, which noticeably changes the shape of the reactor in the middle of his chest. Despite the suit's fairly short lifespan, I honestly really like the design, and it seems others did as well. Which brings us to Tamashii Nations, S.H.Figuarts, a prime company of import figures. With a beginning in anime brands, they've reached out to other communities, and for the sake of today's video, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Back around 2017 to 2018, Figuarts had been doing a Hall of Armor series with Iron Man suits and armor pods. To very quickly go over the suits in this line, we had Mark 1, Birth of Iron Man, Mark 2, Mark 4, Mark 5, Mark 6, and Mark 7. And amidst these figures was the initial release of Iron Man Mark 4 from Iron Man 2. In case you were wondering, they did make the Mark 3, but as a standalone figure without an armor pod, but they also sold the armor pod on its own. But back to the Mark IV. This figure was released with quite an assortment of accessories, such as the iconic donuts, but its big contributing factor was the Hall of Armor slot, which has light and fancy gadget stuff, which looks pretty cool. So this figure came out and went, and years passed until S.H.Figuarts' 15th anniversary was underway. To celebrate this milestone, Tamashii Nation sent out a poll to get the community to decide what figures shall get the special 15th anniversary re-release treatment. Users picked a figure from each of 4 lines: Dragon Ball, Kamen Rider, Ultraman, and Marvel. For the sake of today's video, here were the Marvel options. For the 15th anniversary, they were willing to release the following figures: Iron Man Mark 43, Iron Man Mark 7, Falcon from Infinity War, Iron Man Mark 45, Thor from the Endgame Final Battle, War Machine Mark 4 from Infinity War, Doctor Strange, Iron Man Mark 5, Iron Man Mark 50 from Infinity War, Thor from Thor Ragnarok, War Machine Mark 6 from Endgame, Hulkbuster Mark 2 from Infinity War, Scarlet Witch from Endgame, Black Panther from Infinity War, Captain America from the Endgame Final Battle, Iron Man Mark 4, Iron Man Mark 50 Nano Weapon Set Number 2 from Endgame, and Hulk from Thor Ragnarok. It's definitely quite the assortment of characters, with a very present emphasis on Iron Man suits, so I'm not sure if it was such a surprise that an Iron Man suit won the poll. Of the bunch, Iron Man Mark IV from Iron Man 2 had won the poll, sending him on his way for an anniversary re-release in 2024. This brings us caught up to today's review, the S.H.Figuarts 15th anniversary Iron Man Mark IV. So let's see if the fans made the right choice for this special anniversary re-release opportunity. Here is Iron Man Mark IV, designed after the suit's appearance in Iron Man 2. As for design accuracy, overall it looks pretty accurate, but the yellows on the figure are much darker than the film's lighter yellow. Personally, I like the darker yellow than the light yellow, especially for the helmet, but you can argue for purist inaccuracy. Something I really like about import Iron Man figures is the shininess of the suits and the much more rich material they use for the armor instead of just normal plastic. He has a weight to it, making it feel like a more high-end figure. However, the only downside to this is issues like scraping and paint wear, but if you're careful, it shouldn't be a huge worry.
A small price to pay for salvation.
The detailed line work for the armor crevices look really nice, a great translation from the suit's design in the movie. Iron Man has dozens of figures, all depicting different suits and color schemes, but they all have to face the same design challenge. Iron Man being a metal suit over a humanoid figure is inherently going to be bulky, and while I don't want Iron Man to be as acrobatic as Daredevil or anything, it's a difficult balance to strike between design and articulation. In regards to this figure, I'd say it hits a fair enough balance of articulation and makes attempts to try to subside any possible problems, but there are a few particularly annoying aspects about how they go about this. So, talking about articulation, let's go over what he can do. Starting at the bottom, there are toe joints and a foot hinge. At first, the foot can't move all too much, but there's an armor flap that you can move up to give it just a little bit more range. There are also double jointed knees that kick back as far as his calves allow. There is also a thigh swivel and drop down hips. Moving up to the torso, there is an okay ab crunch with limited upper diaphragm movement. This is where I'd be careful with like paint wear and scraping when moving this part of the body. The arms got ball joint hand rotation, double jointed elbows, bicep swivel, shoulder joints, and a very weak butterfly system. This armor shoulder thing can move upwards, giving you some more movement options as well. And finally, we have the neck and head. There is a ball joint at the base of the neck and a ball joint for the head itself, so the combined efforts of both balls give you a pretty nice range of movement. Definitely a solid amount of articulation with the overall necessities for any superhero action figure. Things like the movable armor flaps and double jointed head are super nice. But I do wish he had a better butterfly system, and a bit of a spoiler for later, but these pieces come off, so when moving around his arms they will occasionally pop out, which does get annoying. This figure comes with a big batch of accessories, so to summarize, we got 4 sets of hands: fist, big bang attack hands, firing hands with a peg, and then firing hands without a peg. More on the pegging later. But something to quickly mention about these hands are the slots on the back. It has additional armor plates on the hands, so when you swap them out, you can plug in the extra padding as well. You can't have an Iron Man without blasting effects, and included are 3 sets of 2 styles. 2 large blasters, 2 small blasters, and 2 long blasters. They are not all interchangeable between the hands and boots, as the small and long blasters don't have a peg, which makes them hand exclusives, while the large blasters are specifically for the feet. There are 2 sets of additional armor pieces for flight mode poses. These 2 pieces on his shoulders come off, so you can slot in the new ones. The flight mode versions extend outwards on the back. The other set goes on his lower calves, displaying the same extended effect. I think it's a cool bonus, but it is a little tedious to be constantly switching them around.
Moving on, we get interchangeable necks to showcase the additional heads, which each have 2 different faceplates. One of a normal Tony Stark face, and the second being Tony with sunglasses. For what it is, I think the likeness to RDJ looks nice, though maybe a different facial expression could have been more interesting than just a stern looking face, just to add a little bit of variety to it.
Our final accessory is a box of donuts. It moves as one solid piece, and when combined with the sunglasses, you can recreate the donut scene. Absolute cinema. Oh, and for the 15th anniversary, you get a special display base, but there's no stand, it's just the base. So, yeah. Overall, it's a pretty nice figure, with a fair batch of accessories, but absolutely a solid representation of the Mark IV suit from Iron Man 2. When it comes to Iron Man suits, I'm very picky, and I'm not too fond of the nanotech ones from the later movies, so having a figure representation of one of his earlier suits is what gravitated me towards this figure. For being a 2018 figure, I think he still holds up today as a good Iron Man representation. The articulation scheme works fairly well with the suit's design. Though I'm not too keen on the ball joint hands, as, I don't know, I feel like they don't give the right amount of range for an Iron Man figure. But that's just nitpicking a bit, since they do provide an upright blasting hand, but I don't know. Figuarts figures scale closer to true 6-inch than, for instance, Marvel Legends do, so next to them he may be smaller than he is canonically, I guess. But on his own, or with other Figuarts characters, he has super great proportions, and if you pose him right, you can fudge him in wherever you want. I'm not sure if Figuarts will do more early MCU movies, more like the Avengers Assemble line a while back, but I do think a War Machine from Iron Man 2 or first appearance Black Widow would be super cool. I think some of the early MCU designs just have a special sauce that's sort of lost nowadays. The donuts and sunglasses accessories are a fun addition, as I guess the only other option would have been beer bottles, so fair play. But maybe another alternate head with the Iron Man mask off, revealing the face underneath, could have been a cool bonus, similar to what Marvel Legends did. Though I do wish they provided a blast effect for the reactor center, just to plug into the middle. It's too iconic of a move to not have, so it's a little upsetting that it's not here. Though, to be fair, this was just a re-release of a prior figure, and it comes with the exact same stuff as the original, plus the anniversary base. But, overall, I think this is a great Iron Man figure, and one that still holds up today. As a fan of this particular iteration of Iron Man suits, Tamashii Nation's S.H.Figuarts did a pretty nice job of capturing the armor's appearance from Iron Man 2. Of all the Iron Man suit options from the poll, I'd say this was a solid choice, so good work, voters. Jarvis, end the video.